Chapter 3 Lawfully Mandated Snitch. A 22-year-old woman walks into the park in New York. She doesn't have a name or face to identify her contact, only a time and location. There's no question about who she's meeting, though. She's only seen him a few times in her life, and not for 4 years. But a Gothamite doesn't forget. Once under the hood, always under the hood. "Boss," she greets, sitting down on the end of the bench. "Hello, Lila. How's your family?" "All good. Dad's working the shop. Judy's in the honor society. Ben's just made first trombone." The Red Hood hums in acknowledgement, flipping a page of his book. "He switch? Thought he was playing violin." "No, picked up both. Busy as any now," she says. "Good for him. You graduate and finish your teaching certifications yet?" "Last month." "Still good as you are with a knife?" "Or better." He turns another page. "Got a job for you, Lila." "I figured." "Full-time classroom assistant, with double on top for guarding one of the students." She raises an eyebrow. "That's good. That's really, really good." She clears her throat. "What's the catch, boss?" He sighs. "It's here in New York, Upper West Side. It's also absolutely top secret." She frowns. Moving to New York is a big ask. She's barely a month out of college after 4.5 years, 2 younger siblings at home, and her dad's starting to get older. But that kind of job would be amazing. Finishing her degree in December had messed up her chances of getting hired for a regular position. Nobody looks for a teacher halfway through the school year. And New York isn't far, a couple hours on the train. "How long, and how dangerous?" she asks. "Hopefully only till summer." He glances over at her from underneath the hood of his red jacket, face obscured by the shadow and sunglasses. "Shouldn't be too dangerous. I'm not expecting any threats, but I don't take chances." "Who's the kid?" "That's the information you get if you agree. This job puts you close to the top, Lila. You're gonna end up with the kind of information people will kill for." She sucks in a breath. That's a lot. But at the same time, she'd worked the streets for years before Hood had helped her family get back together and back on their feet. She's used to danger. She's dealt in life or death information before. She knows she's smart, that she'd worked hard for her degree, but she also knows that college would never have even been a possibility without the man sitting on the other end of the bench. "There's no strings with this, kid. You don't owe me anything. I've got another job down in the Narrows if you don't want to go through with this one. Somebody out on maternity." "Don't call me kid," she mutters back, hoping the boss was just guessing and didn't actually read her mind. She doesn't think he's a meta, but rumors go around. "You're fooling no one. I remember how old you actually are." She tilts her head back to look at the hazy New York sky. Light, even so late in the evening. "Why me?" "You've got the necessary skills, and..." He pauses. "You've proven yourself both loyal and trustworthy. I wasn't kidding about this putting you close to the top. You'll be about as close to the top as it gets. That's not gonna go away, even after this job's done." They sit in silence for a few minutes while she thinks it over. She weighs the choices over and over, but deep down, she knows her answer already. "I'm in," she says. "Absolutely sure?" "Yes, sir." He offers her a hand. She shakes it. "Walk with me, Lila." She follows. New York City glimmers through the windows of Jason's kitchen, casting beams of cool yellow across the countertops and cabinets, and one 26-year-old man wearily turning on a coffee machine. Whatever sleep he'd managed to get hadn't been worth it. Lian shuffles in like a ghost, nearly a quarter of an hour later. The exchange of breakfast dishes is silent, the adolescent girl still blinking sleep from her eyes as she mechanically eats oatmeal. Jason slips the lunch he's packed into her backpack while she blunders into her coat and gloves. It's a chilly walk to school in the dark New York morning. Peter takes one look at his dark circles, visible even through the makeup he usually wears, and concedes their daily battle over radio stations. Jason turns the ballgame off in favor of an 80s, 90s, and Today channel, hoping for something to wake him up and help cheer him up into Neal Caffrey's smile. A single mom who works 2 jobs, loves her kids and never stops. Dolly Parton croons from the radio. Jason switches it back to baseball. Peter side-eyes him the rest of the way to work. We had a big gallery raid last night, Peter tells him on the elevator up. We got a lot of cataloging to do today, but we've got to wait until after someone from City CSI goes through. There was a raid last night? Yeah. Stevens was on a date and caught this little gallery in the red with a piece he knew from school that wasn't correctly labeled as a copy and called it in. We were out until after midnight. Why didn't you tell me last night? Jason asks. I could have helped. What would you have done with Lian? Peter retorts. Jason frowns, but can't exactly argue with that. What else did you pick up then? Are they trying to claim mislabeled copies, or that they didn't know the pieces were forged? It hasn't even been 12 hours, so nobody is claiming anything yet, the FBI agent says as they step out of the elevator. At any rate, we can't get our hands on them until CSI is done, so it's paperwork until then. How am I supposed to focus on paperwork when there's artwork downstairs, Peter? Jason complains. You better pray there isn't any of your artwork downstairs, Neal. Diana chimes from in front of her desk as they pass. I don't know what you're talking about, Jason denies. Also, the statute of limitations is 5 years, and since I've been here for 1 and in prison for 4... Just stop talking, Neal, Peter begs. CSI doesn't finish until almost noon. Peter decides to call an early lunch and head downstairs afterwards. Jason eats in silence, checking his phone. Coming to NY tonight. T. ETA 6-ish? T. Jason smiles despite himself. Obnoxious siblings are always something to look forward to. There are a lot of paintings picked up from the gallery. Jason whistles. What? Did you take every single one? Pretty much, Peter says. They had almost no paperwork on site. Supposedly, their office isn't on location. It's been a mess so far. Guess we better get to it then. Jason pulls on one pair of gloves and crouches next to the first stack. It's slow going. Most of the piece's authenticatable works, but not well known enough to have many photographs. Several of them supposedly on loan from private families. It's a quiet few hours. Paintings being identified as what they're supposed to be, and ownership being tracked. They also find a dozen mislabeled pieces, whether intentionally done so or not. I've got bad news, Jason calls out in the early evening. These 2 are blatant forgeries, but they're old. Aged? Diana asks. No, Jason says. Just regular forgeries that were done in the 70s or 80s, I'd guess. Fantastic, Peter grumbles. 30 years worth of undigitized paper trails. Jason checks the time. There's no way I'm getting out of here tonight. Peter, he calls out. Can I step outside and make a call? Jason's handler narrows his eyes. What for? Arranging a pickup? A pickup of what? He asks, suspicion lacing his tone. My kid, Peter. Jason replies, irritated. Oh, yeah, of course. Peter's expression clears. Jason resists the urge to roll his eyes as he walks to the door. The phone rings only a minute. What's up, Jay? Tim answers. The sky. Are you in New York yet? Yeah, just crossing the bridge. Can you swing by the school and pick up Lian? I'll be getting here late. He explains. Got it. Am I on the pickup list? No, I'll call the school. Thanks, Tim. See you later. Later, Jay. There aren't many students left in the after-school program this late in the evening. Working and chattering quietly under Lila's watchful eye when the front desk radios in a pickup. Lian, she calls out, your ride's here. The red-headed girl jumps up from her seat and gathers her things quickly, waving goodbye to the rest of the group she had sat with. I'm ready, she announces, and follows Lila out of the room. There's an unfamiliar man waiting in the front entrance of the school, just as the boss's earlier message had warned. He's on the shorter side, black hair pulled up into a ponytail. Something about him grabs her mind, as if she's seen him. But he could also be anyone on the street, in dark jeans, a hoodie, and sneakers. Lian must recognize him, though, as she calls out a surprised, Tim! And rushes forward just as he turns to face them. Holy shit, she realizes. No way. No fucking way. He's made an attempt at anonymity, with a baseball cap and sunglasses. But no hat in the world could hide the fact that the man wearing it is Timothy Jackson Drake. But the receptionist hasn't seemed to notice. This job puts you close to the top, Lila. You're going to end up with the kind of information people will kill for. Hood's voice echoes in her head. She forces her feet forward, greeting one of the most powerful men she's ever met, as if she has no idea who he is. She shakes his hand and introduces herself, chatting about Lian while staring into the impregnable dark of his sunglasses. It's more unsettling than the first time she met the Red Hood himself. She rushes into the receptionist's office as soon as they leave. What name did that man give you? How's it going, short stack? Tim glances back at Lian through the rearview mirror. It's good, she shrugs. Just, normal. You like your new school? I heard you got a new teacher's assistant a few weeks ago. He asks, prodding for information about the woman who'd escorted Lian to the pickup area. She looked familiar, but Tim couldn't place her. There had been a moment, when they were walking up, where she had hesitated. Tim spent too many years with Bruce Wayne to be anything other than a paranoid bastard, and he's got a sneaking suspicion that Lian's TA knows exactly who he is. Yeah, she's nice. I think she's from Gotham. Her accent kind of sounds like Jay's, actually. Gotcha. Tim paces through Jason's New York apartment with a critical eye. He's alone, for the moment, Lian having retreated to her room to change out of her school clothes. He anticipates that she'll return before long. It feels off. There's a dish rag drying on top of the kitchen sink faucet. A stack of sketchbooks is knocked over on the floor from the side table. He runs his finger along the edge of a bookshelf, collecting dust. This shelf hasn't been touched. Jason hasn't been reading these. There are dishes left in the drying rack by the sink. The last time Tim saw the apartment, it didn't have a drying rack. Jason had inherited Alfred's particulars when it came to the care and keeping of crockery. Tim slips into the closet, parting the hanging suits to find the latch to the false wall. It opens with a click, revealing dark, nondescript duffel bags. He reaches in, withdrawing a handgun that he disassembles and checks over in the stream of light from the closet door. It's not very bright, but he can see enough. Jason hasn't been cleaning his guns. They're still in pristine condition, but even the duffel bags haven't protected them from the inescapable dust of a historic home. It's not noticeable, unless looked for. Jason's weapons don't need the kind of maintenance he does on them, not when they're sitting unused behind Caffrey's suits. Tim's seen him do it, though. Knows he's been keeping up with it. It's almost meditative, the methodical ritual Jay performs of checking and maintaining his weapons. There's no one thing that stands out to Tim, screaming that something is off, something is wrong with Jason. But there's enough little things that Tim would be a fool not to notice. Jason is a complete neatnik. His apartment is immaculate. His safe houses and stashes are clean and organized. They're both control freaks, Tim and Jason. Where Tim exhibits that is obsessively gathering all the information available about anything and spying on all his friends and family. Jason's sphere of control are the streets and his living spaces. There is a place for everything, and everything goes in its place. Everything Jason owns is carefully used and cared for in an almost respectful manner. In the couple of times Tim's been to Neal Caffrey's apartment, it was obvious which of the boys was living there. It's not even that it's messy now. For any reasonable person, it would be pretty damn clean. Again, there's no glaring red flag, but Jason's books are untouched, and the floor hasn't been vacuumed, and the pantry's disorganized, and the spare set of sheets is in the bottom of the hamper, not washed, folded, and put away, and there are dishes sitting out on Jason's countertop. Tim knows his brother, and he's seen enough. It's really nice to come home to an already made dinner. Lian and Tim huddled around a laptop at the kitchen table. Exactly. Now, do you see that line of code? What needs replacing? Tim points at the screen. Is it these two here? Lian asks. I'm home, Jason calls out. The two of them turn to look up at him in unison. It would probably be eerie to anyone who wasn't a bat or a former assassin. I guess half of us are former assassins anyway, he muses. Hi, Jay. We're doing tech stuff, Lian says with a grin. We've got dinner, Tim announces, straightening up from where he's leaned over the back of Lian's chair. The conversation keeps up while they eat, lighthearted and chatty. Lian's always liked Tim, having met him before when he did jobs with Roy and Jason on occasion. It's easy to slip off the alias and smiles an extra version of Neal Caffrey, like one of his divorce suit jackets over basmati and Malay kofta. He doesn't realize how much it weighs on him until he set it down. You're staying the night? Jason asks later, after Lian has gone to bed. We'll see, Tim replies. Jason narrows his eyes at him from across the table. That was ominous. What's up? Got some information for you. Jason watches as he sets a small device on the table between them. I traced their whole web. It's been dealt with, but this is everything I got. Every name, every date, every location. All of it. Jason stares down at it. What do you want me to do with it? That's up to you, Jay. If you're going out tonight, though, I'll stay with Lian. He reaches for the stick. It's just a normal thumb drive, but what it contains... What would you do, Tim? I don't know, his brother admits honestly. I've never had a kid before. She's not really mine. Jason says. She's your partner's kid, though. Sure, my work partner, my business partner. Jason, I think it's safe to say you and Roy are a little more than strictly professional. He moved across the country for you. He moved across the country for work and to get space from Oliver. He corrects. He moved across the country to work with you. Tim sighs. That sort of ties into the other thing I have for you. Jason's stomach drops. What happened to Roy? He demands. Nothing, so far as we can tell. Or, well, we can't tell anything. I've gotten nothing from them. There's a bunch of relay stations down, but they should have gotten our message by now, and I gave enough time for them to have sent a response. That's why I sat on this for so long. I wanted to have more to give to you. What do you mean, nothing? Jason clenches the drive in his fist. I mean, they're out of contact, Jay. The last message was weeks ago, and the last data transmission was only a few days after it. We've got nothing from them. No contact, no data, no location. They're missing. Jason almost whispers it. Yeah, Tim says. They're missing. Jason swears. If you need to go out... He stares down at the drive in his open palm. No, he decides. I need to think. Tim stands. I'll get out of your hair then, he offers, but Jason catches his arm with his free hand as Tim rounds the table. He doesn't take his eyes off the data stick. It's late to go across the city to the WE building, he says, asking without asking. Okay, Jay, Tim agrees. I'll stay. The day after Tim's visit is probably one of the worst days Jason's ever had as Neal Caffrey. Jason's always been a natural actor, although he rarely gets the credit for it, standing next to the performer of all performers, Dick Grayson. Jason can slide in and out of a role so seamlessly, no one suspects either personality was an act. His height and stature help. No one suspects that the tall, strong guy is anything but what he appears. Jason can be anyone, anything, because he's been so many things. He's done so much, seen so much, that he can draw on some niche experience from a decade before and feed it to whoever he needs to be at the moment. It's so believable because so much of it is real. That's where Jason Todd intersects with Neal Caffrey, because Neal can do it too. It's also why it's so difficult for Jason to be Neal Caffrey when he can't get out of his own head. He can't get far enough from his own head today, but it won't let him go. All he can think about is a Tamaranian ship with his closest friend on board, somewhere out in the stars. Missing. He's quiet on the way to work. Peter notices. Where the fuck did you go, you ginger bastard? Jason glares into his coffee. Diana catches him staring into space. What happened to you? He tries not to wonder, while sitting in a briefing. What do you think, Neal? Jones asks, gesturing at the screen. Jason jerks back to the present. It's displaying a picture of some stolen jewelry and a list of names of the likely fences. He blinks. None of them would bother fencing those. They're cubic zirconia. The entire table groans. Are you serious? Someone demands. Look at that refraction, Jason defends. You couldn't have mentioned this half an hour ago. Sorry, Jason mutters. What the hell am I supposed to tell your daughter, Roy? He thinks, walking back to his desk when he bumps into someone. What the hell was that for, man? Watch where you're going, an unfamiliar guy complains, steadying the girl Jason's just run into. He spies the visitor tags a second too late. Witness. Nice job, Todd. Sorry. Didn't see you there. He placates, making a hasty retreat to his desk, where he accidentally elbows over the last of his cold coffee in his haste to sit down. It's not much of a spill, but it drips onto his dark suit. He scrambles up again for napkins. Peter's eagle eyes follow him for the rest of the day. We need to help Jason, Tim announces, striding into the family kitchen of Wayne Manor. Alfred and Damien look up at him immediately. Damien sets down his pen, abandoning the half-drawn sketch of a tea set on the kitchen table. Elaborate. I'm calling a council meeting, Tim says instead of answering. We are not a council, Damien scolds. We are siblings. You cannot have a self-appointed council. Can too, Steph counters, sauntering in. You got here fast, Tim comments, returning to the table with a box of cookies lifted from a cabinet. It's a Thursday. Makes sense, Tim nods. No, it does not, Damien grumbles. Duke pops his head into the room. Tim called a council? It's not a council, it's just a meeting, the youngest protests. It's a council meeting. What are we meeting about? Dick asks, stepping into the room in front of Bruce. Jason, Tim announces. He needs help. Bruce and Dick share a look. It's not that simple, Tim, Dick says slowly. I will make it simple, Tim says. Bruce sighs. Why don't you talk us through it? He says, and pulls out a chair. Let the council proceed, Steph declares. What happened today, Neal? Peter asks, driving the two of them home. I don't know, Peter. You know, you're not very believable for a con man. The younger man sighs. It's nothing. I'm just frazzled. Frazzled. Yeah, you know, frayed, worn out, stressed. The con man turns, looking out the window. Frazzled. I don't think I've ever heard you use the word frazzled before, Peter remarks. Neal huffs a laugh. There's no humor in it. Guess I haven't been much myself lately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Seriously, don't worry about it. Peter turns fully towards Neal when they pull up to a red light and studies him. The dark car casts shadows across his face, deepening lines and sharpening every angle. Neal looks exhausted. You should know by now I can tell when you lie. Tell me what's wrong. It's nothing you can fix, Peter. He stares at his passenger in silence. Neal won't meet his gaze, looking forward out the front windshield instead. The light's green, he points out. Peter reluctantly returns his attention to the road, driving in silence until the next light. Talk to me. Peter, what's going on, Neal? It's just a lot, he says after a minute. Life, work, Lian. I don't know. All of it, I guess. Seriously, Peter. Nothing's wrong. I'm just out of sorts right now. I'll handle it. What would help? A cigarette, probably. Peter wishes the younger man was joking, but it doesn't seem like it. He frowns. You don't smoke. I don't anymore, Neal corrects. What? There's no way you didn't know that. You've literally seen me smoking before. You've been abroad, Peter. There's an art to it, a culture. I never get anywhere if I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, but That's on a job, as a part of a character. Maybe I'm not always playing a character, Neal says quietly. What? Forget about it. It's not a big deal. I'm concerned about you, Neal. Because I have an occasional cigarette, I'm not addicted, Peter. Besides, I'm not doing anything with the kid around. Haven't even gotten them in the house, I swear. You know it's bad for you, then. So why? Prison? Don't take it personally, but I genuinely don't think it's something you could understand. Peter doesn't have a response to that, so they fall silent. I was probably about 9, the first time I tried one on purpose. But there's always been so much secondhand, I might as well have been younger. Neal ventures, so quietly that he can barely hear him over the sounds of driving. You know how nicotine decreases your appetite? He pauses. Cigarettes are cheaper and easier to come by than food. Peter doesn't have a response to that, either. And his laundry wasn't done. So, Jason hasn't been keeping house. That's a rich argument coming from you, Drake. Damien cuts him off. And there were dishes on the counter. Jason never. That is uncharacteristic of him, Alfred muses. The books, completely untouched. Not even fingerprints on the shelves. He is busy, Tim. There's no reason for you to be doubting him like this. Bruce says. I'm not doubting him. The guns hadn't even been touched, never mind cleaned. He always cleans them. It's like this meditative thing for him. He's being watched right now. You know this, Tim. Have a little faith in him. None of you are listening to me, Tim shouts, slamming a hand on the table hard enough to rattle the tea set. He ignores Alfred's stern look. He's barely sleeping. You should have seen him. He's not doing any of his normal relaxing activities. He's working 3 jobs. He's single parenting a kid that isn't his, and his partner is missing. Why the fuck aren't any of you concerned about this? This is not normal or sustainable, and Jason is struggling. 7 silent faces stare back at him in various levels of shock. Tim continues. You're also worried about hurting his feelings, that you're refusing to see the reality. Jason is in trouble, and you're all determined to ignore it. We get it, Tim, Dick says. What do we do about it, though? Duke asks. He'll close off and pull away from support he is getting. He's done it before. Well, we can't leave him. We have to make it so there's no way for him to pull away, Steph says. No, Damien counters. We have to make him see the consequences his current trajectory will have on both of them. That sounds so threatening, Damie, Dick points out. The youngest Wayne scowls. It's not a threat. I am expressing the reality of the situation. How do we get Jason to help? Cass signs. I will speak to him in New York, Damien declares. Bruce purses his lips, not quite frowning. You're certain that you will get through to him? Yes. Damien nods, seriously, at the Wayne patriarch. I am certain. How do we actually help Jason once he agrees? Steph asks. We can't weave all of us into the Caffrey alias. Some of you are way too recognizable, even in civvies. Tim and I will move to New York, Cass signs. We can be Lian's family. Good plan, Bruce nods. Why the 2 of you? Damien asks, frowning. Asian, Cass signs back. You are intending to pose as her biological family. Cass nods and continues. Tim can work in the New York office. I have an offer from the New York Ballet. Won't the FBI notice you don't actually look like Lian? Like, at all? Nothing a little makeup won't fix, Tim smirks. Besides, they haven't noticed that Jason's a decade younger than he's supposed to be, either. Don't jinx it, Dick mutters over the chorus of Wayne children knocking on the wooden table.
Right. Damien will leave for New York after school on Friday with the intention of overnighting. Tim and Cass, you both prepare for the move. The remainder of us will split their responsibilities to hold down the city. We are redoing the patrol schedules and routes.
Bruce orders. Everyone groans. Jason is more surprised than he should be to find Damien in his apartment when he gets home from work the next day. He's been low contact for a couple of months, and now 2 in-person visits in 1 week. He'd be worried that something had happened, but he knows what happened. The 9-year-old in June's spare room happened. Besides, where one bat goes, another is bound to follow.
Where's Lian?
He asks, taking off his shoes and hanging up his coat. I believe she's across the hallway.
Right,
Jason says, stepping into the kitchen and filling a glass of water.
What gives, Damie?
He asks, leaning against the countertop and taking a sip. It has come to my attention that you are in need of assistance or enlightenment. I am capable of providing both. Jason raises an eyebrow at his brother over the rim of his glass.
Enlightenment?
You are no longer in an optimal state of health. You have not been sleeping. You are attempting to maintain a volume of work that is no longer feasible for your new circumstances. You are overwhelmed and therefore more likely to make mistakes. Given that you are currently a guardian and caretaker of an adolescent, that is not an acceptable trajectory.
So,
Jason hums into his glass.
Tim's a fucking snitch.
Drake is concerned, and having seen you in person, I believe his apprehension was well-founded. You should not be raising Lian alone.
I'm not raising Lian. I'm looking after her until Roy gets back.
Jason challenges. Given the most recent information available, you can no longer anticipate Harper's return in the near future, Damien argues. You are her foster parent now, Todd. This will not be a short-term situation. You should not be doing this alone. Jason sets his glass down. Hard.
I can do this, Damien.
This is not about you. It's about her.
I'm not going to make the same mistakes they made with me.
You already are, Todd.
Excuse me?
Who does she have to rely on if anything happens to you? Damien says. What other adults are in her life? You're doing her a disservice by isolating her. It's not just that it takes a village, it's that she deserves a village. She needs a support system. Would you have made the same choices you did if you had anyone other than Bruce to go back to? Would my mother have been able to manipulate you the way she did if Bruce wasn't everything you had in the world? Jason stares, open-mouthed, at his younger brother. Damien sighs. We are not trying to belittle you, Todd. We are trying to make sure both of you get the support you need. Get over your pride. Can you honestly tell me it wouldn't make a difference to have help?
No,
Jason admits a beat later.
I can't.
Excellent, Damien says. Drake and Kane will be moving to New York full-time. The rest of us will rotate on different weeks.
What?
Drake and Kane can pose as a maternal uncle and aunt. The rest of us will maintain normal operations in New Jersey and visit on a more regular, but still occasional, basis.
Do I get any say in this?
No.
Why not?
You are being foolish, so the council made a decision without you. Jason laughs.
You've finally been worn down enough to call it the council.
Damien's eyes widen in surprise. Then his face crunches into a scowl. He laughs harder.
You didn't even notice, did ya?
Damien stands up. Irrelevant. He marches to the cabinet and starts digging through it. We're making makluba for dinner.
You're so fucking pushy,
Jason grumbles, following his brother into the kitchen and reaching for a pot. He ruffles the teenager's hair as he slips past.
Brat.
The ceiling above his bed is all too familiar to Jason. It's one of those nights where closing his eyes is worse. All he can think of is Roy and Corey and the rest of their team, though he doesn't know the others well. He shuts his eyes and sees red, not the red of fury and blood that tints his nightmares. It's the obnoxious vermilion of his best friend's favorite mutilated hoodie, liberated for the price of a candy bar from a thrift store in the Midwest. He sees the matte brick tones of his bow, resting unstrung against the wall of the cockpit. He sees the rusty gold of his hair, can practically feel the strands between his fingers, helping the older man tie it back after yet another injury left his arm in a sling. Missing.